Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Joey. In the main event of UFC Vegas 27, Rob Font beat Cody Garbrandt in a very important bantamweight fight, and Rob Font put on an absolute spectacular performance, and he jabbed Cody to death. He landed some very good shots and hurt Cody quite a few times in the fight, and just outclassed him and picked him apart for all 5 rounds in a beautiful performance. And even though Rob Font is 100% an elite bantamweight fighter, a lot of people are questioning, was the hype around Cody Garbrandt too much? Was it warranted? And I decided to take a look back at his resume, and I want to do future videos on different fighters where I look back and review their resume. And I figured this was the perfect fighter to really start the video series off with. Um, Cody Garbrandt, as much as I believed in him and I picked him to win this fight, I thought his speed and power would be key in beating Rob Font. But I saw a path to victory for Rob Font. But I really thought Cody would win this fight, and I've believed in Cody for a while. I've been a defender for Cody for a while. But when you look back and kind of go over and review his resume, it is not the best resume at all. I mean, I think some of you would be shocked looking back at it. So when Cody came into the UFC and made his UFC debut, he made it against Marcus Brimage. And Cody had 5 fights and a lot of impressive finishes before he got a title shot against Dominic Cruz. And, when he made his way to the title shot, he had so many impressive finishes. He finished Marcus Brimage, he finished Augusto Mendez, Thomas Almeida, Takeo Mitsugaki. But if you look at those names, it is just not very good. But good performances. Then he made his way to the title shot against Dominic Cruz. And the Dominic Cruz fight was without a doubt his most spectacular performance. Nobody really thought Cody deserved a title shot at the point that he got the title shot. I mean, he got the title shot with a win over Takeo Mitsugaki. So when he went in there, and a lot of people thought, he was a tailor-made matchup for Dominic Cruz to beat. It was going to be Cody rushing forward, throwing power shots, Cruz with his footwork. And when Cody Garbrandt went in there and beat him, a lot of people were shocked, myself included. I picked against him in that fight. And, it was just so shocking that I think a lot of people, myself included, put more stock into that win than maybe should have been. And don't get me wrong, it was a great win. I respect him. He became the bantamweight champion at a very young age, only his 6th fight in the UFC. But then he goes on, and this is where it gets a little crazy, to get KO'd by TJ Dillashaw twice, and then KO'd by Pedro Munoz, TKO, whatever you want to call it. And in my opinion, I think he could have easily won all 3 of those fights. He landed in all 3 of those fights and hurt all 3. In all 3 of those fights, hurt DJ Dillashaw in the first and second fight, hurt Pedro Munoz in that fight before getting finished himself, just getting sloppy, too aggressive. So the narrative has always been, Cody just needs to rein in his emotions. He gets too aggressive. But, at the end of the day, he did lose those fights. Then he goes on with the impressive win over Rafael Sunsao with that, buzzer beater KO right hand, which you can't take nothing away from him. He had been out for a little while at that point. But then he comes out and drops one to Rob Font, which, again, Rob Font's an elite fighter. But you look back on this resume, he beat Dominic Cruz when Dominic Cruz, I don't want to say he was in his prime at this point, even though he was champion. He had suffered so many injuries, had been out for so many, long years that Dominic Cruz had been out. And, he was just kind of getting back in the swing of things. He had beat TJ Dillashaw, fought Uriah Faber, and then, now he's fighting Cody Garbrandt. I believe it was at the end of the year. But this resume is just not good at all. Marcus Brimage, Henry Briones, Augusto Mendez, Thomas Almeida, Takeo Mitsugaki are his wins. His best win is Dominic Cruz and Rafael Sunsao. So I'm wondering, and I want people to comment in the comment section and let me know, was the hype warranted? Was I fooled? Was a lot of other fans fooled in believing in Cody Garbrandt? I mean, it's hard when you say, he's lost 4 out of his last 5. That is insane, and he's been TKO'd in 3 of them. That's really saying something. These names, since he came into the UFC, he's had amazing, impressive performance, highlight reel finishes, but the guys that he beat are not world-class UFC fighters at the time he beat them by any means, other than the decision win over Dominic Cruz. and the KO win against Rafael Sunset last year. So just looking back on these fights, for me, I think it's worth it to question it. And I don't know what Cody can do now after this fight. That's another reason I wanted to do this video. What's next for Cody Garbrandt? But he needs to, diversify his game. He relies too much on the boxing. He doesn't use kicks enough, which I think would serve him well. The wrestling he tried to use in the Rob Font fight, but it didn't work out for him too well. Uh, so I think if I'm the UFC, if I'm Cody Garbrandt, he said he can make flyweight easily. Send Cody down to flyweight. Maybe he can fight Askar Askarov, who's probably next in line for the winner of Devison Figueroa versus Brandon Moreno. And then if Cody Garbrandt can beat Askar Askarov, he would be next in line for a title shot. He would be the biggest name in the division at that point. And I really think that's what's next for him, because the bantamweight division is absolutely stacked. And if Cody can't get by TJ Dillashaw, he can't get by Pedro Munoz, and now he can't get by Rob Font, I don't see a path forward for him, because there is nothing but killers in that division. Just the names I mentioned that he already lost to. Then you got Corey Sandhagen, Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan. I mean, I don't know how he makes it back to the title or wins the title when he can't beat, as great as Rob Font looked and as good as he is, I don't think he can beat Aljamain Sterling. I don't think he can beat Peter Yan. So I just don't know where Cody Garbrandt goes other than flyweight. But I figured I would do this video. I say Cody Garbrandt versus Askar Askarov at flyweight next. Cody Garbrandt no longer a bantamweight. The division is just too much for him. But let me know what you guys think. What should Cody Garbrandt do next? And also let me know if you guys like these videos where I kind of go over their resume a little bit and give my opinion on them, when it's not really a prediction video. Because I talk about the resume a little bit when I do the prediction, but not as heavily as I did in this video. So just let me know in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.